In this question, we are told that a consumer group claims a mean annual consumption of high fructose corn syrup by a person in the United States is 48.5 pounds with a standard deviation of 3.5 pounds. The distribution for the annual consumption of high fructose corn syrup is bell-shaped. What percentage of people in the U.S. consume between 38 and 55.5 pounds of high fructose corn syrup per year? For this, we'll need to draw our bell curve. In the middle, we'll mark our mean. Our mean will have a z-score of 0. We'll also mark -1, -2, and -3 on our z-score list. On the right side, we'll also mark +1, +2, and +3. According to the empirical rule, roughly 34% of the population should fall between -1 and 0. The same between 0 and 1. Between -1 and 2, we should have 13.5%. And then the same between 1 and 2. Now, between 2 and 3, we can expect 2.35%. The same between -3 and -2. The readings greater than 3 should make up 0.15% of our population, and the same for those less than -3. Now, it may be a little bit impractical to calculate all of these limits separately, so there is a way to automate this with Excel. To calculate the value based on the z-score, there's an equation we can use. We can take the mean plus the standard deviation multiplied by whatever z-score we are trying to calculate for. So there are 3 ingredients we need to collect. We'll need mean, standard deviation, and z. Let's enter those into Excel now. Starting in A13, I'll type mean, and we'll type that the mean was 48.5. We'll also type the standard deviation, which was 3.5. Now we have a list of z's that we'll need to calculate. So I'll type all of the z's in, starting from -3. Based on the z's, we can calculate the value. So to calculate our first value, we'll say equals, click the mean, add the standard deviation, and multiply by the z. Now notice that we have many different z's, but only one mean and only one standard deviation. This means that our mean and standard deviation will need to be indicated as constants, so Excel will not attempt to change them. So after I type my formula, I'm clicking back on B13 in blue, that's the mean, and pressing the F4 key to place the dollar signs. This indicates to Excel that the mean is a constant. The standard deviation in B14, 3.5, is also a constant. There's only one standard deviation, and so we press F4 there as well to indicate to Excel that's a constant. Then we press Enter, and we find that our value at the z of -3 is 38. I'll make the note one more time, just for good measure, that the mean and standard deviation are constants, which means we will need the dollar signs before and after. Now that we've typed our formula into the value box, we can move our mouse below the bottom right corner of this box to get this little black cross shape. Click it and drag it downward, and release to complete the table of values. Now we have a list of values for each of the z-scores. I'll copy those quickly onto the right side. The question we are being asked now that we have all of these values is what percentage of people in the U.S. consume between 38 and 55.5 pounds of high fructose corn syrup per year? The 38 pounds is marked here on the graph. This corresponds to z of a negative 3. 55.5 pounds is marked at the positive 2 on the graph. This is marked as z equals positive 2 and a value of 55.5. To find the percentage, we will just need to add the percentages that are between those two markers. We would need to add 2.35 plus 13.5 plus 34 plus another 34 plus 13.5 again. Those are the percentages that are in between the red markers. We can calculate this in Excel. I'll place another label for the red markers, and I'll type all of those numbers in, starting with equals 2.35 plus 13.5 plus 34 plus 34 plus one more 13.5. And so the percentage between the red markers is 97.35. For part B, we were asked, in a sample of 200 Americans, how many would you expect to consume less than 52 pounds of corn syrup per year? The key words here are how many would you expect? When they use these words, we are asked really to find expected value. And expected value is going to be n times p, where n is the number of people in the sample, or the size of the sample, times p, the probability. Let's enter slots for these in our table. We'll enter n for the size of the sample and p for the probability. The size of the sample was given to us as 200. The probability we'll have to use the empirical rule for. I'll place a marker for 52 pounds because the question says less than 52. Now we are looking at all the percentages that are less than 52, so we'll add 0.15, 2.35, 13.5, 34, and 34. We'll type that in here. We get an answer of 84%. I will retype 84 with the percent sign after it. You can also use 0.84. Now to get the expected value, which I'll abbreviate as EV, we say equals, click the 200, press the multiplication key, and now click the 84%. This gives us an expected number of people of 168. That will be our final answer for part B.